taking raining threes to another level this week, BT. We've got quite the shower assortment across town.
We did get a lot of rain, and we're still in it.
But you always say, like, oh, we don't get enough rain. I haven't seen the sun, I feel like, in like 2 weeks.
You were asking yesterday, when am I getting vitamin D?
I like my runs out on the river. You know, I need the endorphins.
Last weekend, the first weekend of May, beautiful. Second weekend of May, a duplicate.
But you said, like, starting end of this week, we're just going to have like a month straight.
That was not me. That was not me. Not a month straight. But
I don't want to put you
it's
on the
going to
record.
feel like it because of the lack of sun. It'll feel like a month straight. But it's going to be several days of a new weather pattern. Beautiful sun.
We're getting into the end of spring. You see the Kentucky Derby this weekend?
I did. And you know what was wild? I did not. I saw this fact, though. I did not watch the race. Every horse in that race was related to Secretariat, the great Triple Crown winner from 70.
Secretariat is busy.
Six?
Busy guy.
79,
70.
I don't know.
It was in the 70s.
He's a busy guy, Secretary. The journalism was the horse favorite entering in. All my buddies were like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna bet on journalism." Everybody's gonna say, "I'm like, listen, I've been betting on journalism for 10 years and I haven't made any money."
It hasn't worked out yet.
So yeah, I'm just putting that in your ear, right there.
And you know, I'm busy with rain, but you've been busy with sports since last Friday.
What a week in San Antonio. Obviously, Gregg Popovich stepping away as the Spurs head coach after 29 years. And earlier this week, Bill, I mean, one of the most cathartic, powerful moments at Mitch Johnson's introductory press conference. Coach Pop entering the room, flanked by Spurs legends of the past and present, and you know we're lucky enough to have one of those guys here. I can't wait for this week too.
This is fantastic. Joining us for Raining Threes, the one and the only, 32, Sean Elliott. Look at that picture, my man. Look which one we got.
Look at that.
Huh?
Got a goatee and everything. Who is that guy? a lot younger.
Welcome to Raining Threes.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm just along for the ride, apparently. I mean, you guys got a lot of content already. Secretary.
We got to go.
The weather.
Nonsense every day.
I was out playing
Sean.
today. It was raining on me.
Did you play today?
Yeah, of course.
How did you get in 18 holes? Yeah, that was.
I got up early. Got to get up early in the morning to beat me, Bill.
What'd you fire?
I shot an 80.
Where?
At the quarry. Wasn't good. I can't stop the blow-up holes right now.
Good.
That's the problem.
Come on, man. 80's really good. That's a fun round.
Got triple and a couple doubles.
What's your handicap?
I'm like a 5-6.
Okay.
In there right now.
How often do you get out on the course?
3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
Nice.
Yes, sir. It should be better.
We've got to play. I mean, I remember you were playing behind us. It was a Spurs outing at, I think it was the Palmer. It was a par 5, and you launched a drive because we're looking back from the green, and you were literally 100 yards out on a par 5. I was like, so how long are you hitting your drive?
Every once in a while.
You're going 350, aren't you?
It depends.
You tag one?
I mean, if I hit one well, it's 320, 330.
It's incredible, man.
Yeah. That's a good
favorite San Antonio course?
I mean, obviously I love the quarry because I play there a lot, but I love the TPC canyons because you can hit it a little left and right, you get away with it.
A little forgiving.
A little bit more forgiving. And I just love the layout. It's a beautiful course too. So that would probably be my number one.
Do you ever dust off the mid-range, the jump shot ever? I mean, do you ever?
Every once in a while.
Okay.
Now, you know, all I need is like a good 5-minute warm up, get the flick and the wrist going, get the legs, and then it all comes back.
Yeah. Nice. Do you like go to the gym and maybe play a little pickup or shoot around?
Oh no. If I try to play, you know, I can't turn it off. So then I try to think that I can do something, like I can burst. So I tell my friends all the time, no more bursting for me, which means, you know, I'm not going to try to beat somebody off the dribble or make a quick move because if I do that, it's a hammy, it's a calf, something's going to go. Yeah, so I just take it easy.
Is that a thing with a lot of former players too? When you get them all sort of in the gym, a couple guys in the gym, it really kind of, guys who have that competitive switch, I feel like, you know, you got to scratch it.
You can't turn it off. That's the problem. And we all professional athletes, we all think that we can still do it.
But these tendons, these joints, they're coming up on 50.
And your body's like, hey, hey, you think you can do it? Let me lay your butt in bed for about 2 weeks.
Father Time's undefeated.
Hey, you can give him a standing 8 count, but he's going to win.
Yeah.
He's gonna come back. He's going to win.
Exactly.
Well, we saw you earlier this week, Sean. Obviously, you were at Coach Pop's farewell address as head coach of the Spurs and ushering in a new era for Mitch Johnson. But How cool of a moment was that with you guys all walking out with
I
Coach?
just got goosebumps. You know, I just thought that was an incredibly classy press conference, the best that I've ever witnessed. To be honest with you, from Peter John's opening remarks to Pop coming out there and seeing him just really composed, because that had to be tough for him. Mm-hmm. After all these years, I know Pop. He really wanted to go out his way and to be in a situation where physically he can't do it anymore. And he said that. He said, he's getting better, because I saw him a couple months ago and he's already so much better than he was then. But he's like, it's not good enough right now. I'm not getting well fast enough, basically, to give these guys the type of energy that they demand and then that they deserve. And so I thought that was really profound. And I just thought it was really magnanimous of him to take a step back and say, I'm doing what's best for the franchise and for the players. And that's how he's always been.
You said it, seeing it in such a class way and first class all the way with this organization. This is the only one we really know.
Right.
You know more about the NBA organizations. How exceptional is the Spurs front office and the way they execute things like that?
Amazing. I mean, I tell my friends all the time that there's old Spurs and new Spurs. Like, old Spurs was a lot different before Pop came back and took over the reins. I mean, everything was different. Bill, we the way the players are treated, the way family members are treated, and I said last night in an interview, the real key to me, it was not only Pop and RC and Big Peter, it was their wives, the women
Really?
that were alongside of them. I don't say behind them, the women that were side by side with those guys, because, Erin Popovich was the matriarch of the team. She was the one who got after Pop and made sure that the wives, the girlfriends, the fiancés were all included, because, you're out there on the road for 8 or 9 days. We're asking, your family to support you the whole time, but then you can't alienate those people. You've got to bring them in. And so you bring everybody into the fold. You make everybody feel like they're a part of it. And then you get a lot more support at home. Those players
awesome.
are supported at home. You don't have players worrying about leaving their family for 8 or 9 days, because the people at home, they're bought in too. They bought into the whole culture. And that was really the women, I think, behind the scenes that helped foster that culture and stayed after RC and Pop and Big Peter and really made it into what it is today.
You mentioned the matriarch and Pop going out on his own. There was rumor going early on that when Tim retired, Pop would retire.
Yeah.
And I really thought that when his wife passed, that was the difference, and that he wanted to stay active and coaching.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct there, because, Pop has his hands in a lot of things. I mean, he's involved in so many things, but his love is basketball and coaching. And when Aaron was gone, I think that, he really dove deeper into his players, into coaching, because he needed that to, just fill, a huge void in his life. And, he did a magnificent job. Obviously, I thought he was really close to retiring. I knew he was going to retire right after the draft or after the lottery, and then we get Victor, and then he was just re-energized. And I think there were several players. I was one. I know a couple other guys that I talked to that told him, like, you right now you can't retire. Like, you have a responsibility to this young man.
Wow.
You got to show him how to prepare, how to be professional. Show him what you showed Timmy. You got to treat him in the same type of way. Give him the right foundation for his career. And I'm sure he knew that as well. He didn't need us to tell him that. But I think there were a few of us that stepped forward and told him, hey, right now is not the time. You got to stick around a little bit longer.
It's really cool to see. The Spurs are as much a family, it feels like, as a franchise. But obviously Pop is energized by having his players around. But for you guys as players, I mean, seeing you guys all walk in, and then Manu and Timmy go up there, stand side by side with Pop, and then Pop telling us that they were very much involved in his rehab process.
Yeah. Those two guys were there all the time. You know, I heard that Timmy was in the pool with him all the time, helping him out.
Really?
And taking part in his workouts. And, I mean, that just had to inspire Pop as well. That had to give him a huge boost to, you know, just be rewarded in that way where, you know, he'd put so much time and effort into his guys, and then they turn around and they do exactly the same thing. It's like, you know, if you're an adult and you put so much, a parent, and you put so much time into your kids, and later on in life, your kids turn around and they start to take care of you.
How often are all you guys talking to Pop?
Well, it depends. I mean, I know Timmy and Manu obviously were there all the time. I tried to give Pop his space after his stroke. We would check in with him, and, you know, a couple times I said, Pop, I'm going to come and see you. I'm coming to see you. He's like, no, I'm not. You can't come see me yet. You know, he said, I'll get too emotional, or, you know, I'm not ready yet. So we just tried to give him his space to get better and not put too much pressure on him. And when he was ready, actually he wasn't really ready. We just kind of forced our way through the door a couple months ago and said, hey, Pop, you know, we haven't seen you all season. Claudia and Claudia loves Pop, and we said, we're, you know, ready or not, here we come.
And how is he? I mean, seeing him yesterday, is he sad, you know, that this is happening?
I mean, I'm sure he has to be a little bit, but at the same time, when you've accomplished what he has, and Pop has a great grasp on life and reality. He knew he wasn't going to be around forever, and he knew at some point, you know, he was going to have to pass the torch to somebody else. So I haven't spoken with him over the last week or so. I saw him yesterday before and after, and just for a second, but I'm sure he's happy with the results, and he knows that he's left the organization in great hands.
And the thing is, you guys probably don't remember him who he is now, maybe in the best, but having played for him in the 90s, early 2000s, it was funny, Sean, because I was going back and looking at archive footage that we have in our old VHS tapes, but it was crazy. Before I moved to San Antonio, I was unaware of the fact that when Pop fired Bob Hill in '96, there were a lot of fans out there who weren't happy with the move.
And Jamie and I, we moved here in '96. We go to our first Spurs game. We had great seats. We're literally 5 rows behind the bench. And he was public enemy number 1 at that game. And people were yelling at him. And Jamie, we still joke, this one guy yells at the top of his lungs, and I know Pop heard him. I know y'all heard him. He was like, why don't you go coach in hell, Popovich? And we're like, wow, what's happening? I thought this was the home team.
Well, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there because, you know, fans, for the most part, and you know, I can give you my long version of the answer is like, you know, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of basketball. I mean, that's all I did. I loved watching games. And then when I got to college, you know, I had a great coach in Lute Olson, and we watched a ton of film, and I still watch a lot of NBA games. And then I got to the NBA, and it was like you were going from basic math to, you know, algebra 2 or calculus. You know, it was much more complex. It was a much different game than high school or college. And so I had to learn a lot. And so here I am, and I have a trained eye. And I still had to learn a lot about the game. And so for me, I feel like, and it's not to denigrate fans, but a lot of fans don't know the game.
We don't know. Exactly.
You know, so they're fans can know stats and all those kinds of things, but, you know, it's more than just X's and O's. It's philosophy of the game, knowing the mindset and the psychological profile of the build of players, how to get guys to trust each other. And there's so much that goes into it. And so, you know, we were all surprised when he fired Bob too. I mean, we really were. I loved playing for Bob Hill. I don't mind saying that at all. I mean, I thought Bob was a great coach, but we also weren't very good defensively. Like, we got dismantled the year before by Utah in the second round, and Pop was really upset about that loss. I think a lot of us were. And he just felt that in order to really win, we had to be a better defensive team. And he didn't see that happening. And so he was the one, he felt like he had to step in and do something about it.
Was there an adjustment period for you guys in the locker room when Pop took over? Was there immediately Pop coming into the locker room? He'd been in the front office, and then you guys said, okay, here we go. This is our guy.
It didn't happen that quickly. I mean, I had known Pop for a long time before that. And so that the adjustment for me was, Pop was a friend of mine. Like we did movie reviews. I knew Pop in, the first time I met Pop in '89, we were on a short little hotel shuttle bus going through Uvalde and Victoria and Corpus Christi and Laredo, Del Rio, and doing basketball clinics in the parking lots of HEBs with the old Coyote. And we, Pop and I both didn't have 2 nickels between us. Well, we, 2 broke guys, just kind of finding our way. And Pop and I became friends over that time. And so for me, the adjustment was, here's my buddy, and all of a sudden he's cursing and yelling at me. And I'm like,
what
hey, Pop,
happened?
what the hell? I mean,
Exactly.
aren't we boys? And
Yeah,
he's like,
right.
damn it, Sean, you got to do this. And I'm like, okay. I mean, so that was a big adjustment for me. Maybe not so much for the other guys, but I kind of felt like I knew Pop on a completely different level. So that was a big adjustment for me.
Well, you guys really have a history. I didn't know about that. That's
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
and of all the players we know, like, who had that? I mean, like, he was a dad to them. I mean, who was the closest to
Well,
Pop?
I mean, he was like a dad for me lots of times.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple of times Pop went over my house, would come to my house, and had people over there, and Pop would pull me aside and go, "Who are all these people? Get these people out of your house. Get this guy out of your life. You don't need these people around. Things of that nature."
Wow.
Where he was like a parent. I mean, I was a young guy. I thought I knew everything. And here was my assistant coach way back in the day who was telling me, hey, get these people out of your life. This is how you got to do it. And so, Pop was like a father figure to me.
That's so cool.
And because you came into the league with the Spurs, but then you spent that one season in Detroit. What was that like for you when you were traded to Detroit from San Antonio?
The Stones, yeah.
That was tough. That's a whole long dissertation too. That was hard because I was loyal to San Antonio, and I felt that I was going to be here my whole career. And so when I did get traded, I just said, okay, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to go learn from the bad boys and learn from Isaiah and Joe and Bill Laimbeer, and I was going to make the best of that opportunity. But it didn't work out quite the way I thought it would. And so at the end of that year, I had a chance. I had 4 or 5 teams in the West that were willing to make a trade with the Pistons. So I could go there. It was like Seattle, Denver, Utah, Phoenix, and the Spurs. And Pop, I knew, had gone back to San Antonio. And Pop and I had a conversation that year in Detroit. He was the assistant for Golden State. I was playing in Detroit, and we were before the game, we were on the bench talking to each other and, just kind of reminiscing about San Antonio. And then I saw him go back. And for me, when the Pistons came to me and said, okay, well, which team, we have trades lined up, I didn't want to go into another unfamiliar locker room. And that was my problem in Detroit. Like, I just didn't fit in there with that group or with a couple guys on the team. And for me, I felt more comfortable going back to a guy like David Robinson. I knew that there was a chance that Avery was going to go back. And those were guys that I was familiar with and I felt very comfortable with. And of course, I loved San Antonio. And my first daughter was here as well. And so that was a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just wanted to come back.
Was it because those Pistons teams, because you put up great numbers that year in Detroit? I mean, you played a lot of games with those guys, and the record I don't think was there that season.
No,
but
we were. The thing is, we were 500. We were a 500 team until Bill Laimbeer retired, and Bill was Bill was the cat on the team, and when the cat was gone, then the mice started to play, and so Bill, I see all the stuff about the bad boys and all that. To me, being in that locker room and being around that team, Bill was the guy who kept everybody in line. You know, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. Clean your crap up.
Really?
You know, Bill, I still maintain to this day that Bill Laimbeer was one of the best teammates that I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
He's one of 2 or 3 guys that there was a game where I really had it going on in Detroit, and Don Chaney called a couple plays for a couple other guys, and we came to the huddle, and Bill was in there, and Bill looked at me in front of everybody. He said, "Sit tight. We're coming right back to you." And as a player, that does, you know, that just bolsters your confidence because, you know, I knew he knew what I was doing out there, and he knew that I was frustrated because I didn't get the ball the last couple, 2 or 3 times down the floor, and he knew that I wanted it, and I didn't have to come to the huddle and say, "Hey, run a play for me."
Mm-hmm.
I get me in this game somehow. I didn't have to do that. He knew.
Because you hear the stories about Bill Laimbeer, and if he's a guy what wasn't on your team and you go into the rim, a little soft, he might.
Well, Bill, yeah,
you might regret it, I guess.
He had your back. That was the thing I loved about him. We always had team meetings in San Antonio. If we were playing bad, we lost 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and team meetings I always thought were useless. Guys would get up, and you'd have 12 guys, and guys say, "I'm going to hit somebody tomorrow. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go out there," and they might do it for a game. And then you're right back to your old kind of pattern. And Bill was like, he backed up everything that he said he was going to do. And so Bill had your back, that's for sure. And again, just, I know he's got a bad rap, but for me, Bill Laimbeer was a gem.
I want to talk about some of the players you shared the floor with. What was it like guarding Michael Jordan?
I loved it. I loved it. For me, it was, you're measuring yourself against the best. And why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, what do you have to fear? The first couple times that I guarded Michael, there was one time in particular where Larry said, "Sean, you have Michael tonight," and I could feel the collective relief from other players.
From the other players.
Yeah, and I was like, bring it. If he scores 40, then he's going to score 40, and that's okay. That's like, I want to. I mean, I grew up watching Michael Jordan. I want to go out there and face him. If he embarrasses me, how can he? He embarrasses everybody. So, go out there and just give it your best shot. And so,
what happened that night?
He probably dropped the high 30s, maybe 40, who knows. But for me, it was an enjoyable experience the entire time.
Because the position that you played, too, any given night, I mean, you're matching up with some pretty talented guys.
Yeah.
I mean, who were some of the coldest dudes that you would have to match up against?
Well, my first couple years in the league, actually, Dominique Wilkins and I talk about this all the time. The top 10 scorers in the league or so, 7 or 8 of them were small forwards. So it was every night was a bloodbath at that position. Dominique, the first time I guarded Dominique Wilkins, he made a couple really stupid spin moves and throwing the ball off the glass, and the ball was rattling in. And in my mind, I said, that was garbage.
He's not going to do that all night.
He can't do that all night. That was a fluky shot. Well, 44 points later, those fluky shots were still falling.
Awfully
right?
fluky that night.
And the other guy, there were a couple guys. James Worthy was a handful because, you have to be really technically sound defensively if you're guarding him, because Magic Johnson was so good with passing the ball in his angles. So there were a couple times I got out of position defensively because I'm trying to beat James off a screen, and all he has to do is take one step back door, and the pass is behind my head, and James is dunking the ball. And I'm like, okay, you cannot get out of position
right.
when Magic has the ball, and then it makes James a much better player.
It's a second. All it takes is a split second.
A split second. And the other guy was Chris Mullin. And there was a game where he had 39 against me. And the thing was, he would run down the court.
Is it with the Warriors or the Pacers?
Yeah, Warriors. Okay. He'd run down, he'd get in the block, and then his big guy, I can't remember the center's name, as he's coming down the floor, Chris Mullin would come and set a back screen on Big Dave, and the big guy would go to the basket, and he did this like 4 or 5 times, and I had to make sure to sit back and not let the big guy get a dunk, bump the big guy, and then next thing I know, Mully's out there by himself at the top of the key because I had to stop for a minute and bump, and he was just so smart, and he's sitting there shooting jumpers, whap, whap, and people are yelling at me in the stands, come on, Sean, play some defense. I'm like, do you understand what's going on out here?
Exactly.
Like, if I don't bump that big guy, David Robinson's going to yell at me. You know, he's going to like, hey, you know, Sean, well, you got to help me out here. So Chris Mullin was just, it was between the ears because he wasn't the fastest guy, but he knew how to get open. He knew how to set screens. He was just really a cerebral player with an incredible jump shot.
Is that bumping and that sort of talking on the court? Is that kind of stuff that you see? Because you have a front row seat to it today. You see that in today's game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you see a lot of that. But today's game is different. Now it's all switching. So if that was the case back then, Dave and I would have just switched. And Dave, you take Chris Mullin. I'm going to take the big guy when Mully sets his screen. But we weren't doing that back then.
No switching back then. You stayed.
I mean,
Right.
not a lot of switching
Right.
at all. And
Is it just the athleticism, I guess, maybe of the big men here more in these days? Because I think, I don't know, but the post players in the 90s, there were a lot more post players maybe, I feel like, in the 90s.
well, the game was obviously different, right? I mean, the big guys weren't concerned with shooting 3 balls. There were like 3 or 4 guys in the league that shot threes. Now all the
Everybody is
bigs
now. Yeah.
want to go out there and gravitate out there. But, you know, the game, like I've always said on our telecast, has always been inside out. It's like chipping and putting. You know, you got to make the 3-foot putts if you want to score, right? You don't pull your driver out on par 3s. You got to know how to play the game. And so the big guys all played down low in the low block, and that's what we did. We feed David Robinson, throw it down to Dave, you know, as much as you could to try to get high percentage shots. Now it's a lot different. Big guys are out on the perimeter. Sometimes you have point guards guarding centers because they're switching out there on the perimeter, and the big guys aren't even going down a low block anymore. They're just still trying to step out there and shoot threes.
Who was the player that like you just annoyed everybody with like talking so much smack and it was just we're playing there tonight.
Gary Payton.
Wow.
Gary
the glove.
Yeah.
Glove.
And it's funny because I see Gary a lot. I've seen him a
Really?
lot over the last 10 years or so.
What's he doing?
Great guy. He was a Pac-10 guy too, so we played against each other in college.
Oh, wow.
So when Gary so Gary and I see each other, we hit it off. We have a great time, but boy, he talked a lot of trash. He talked so much trash. Never stopped.
Yeah.
And then you get traded back from Detroit to San Antonio. And now the man who you originally traded for, Dennis Rodman's in the locker room.
Yeah.
What's that?
I love Dennis.
Okay.
I
What was
loved
that like?
Dennis. I loved him. And he was I will say to this day that he was misunderstood.
Really?
Yeah, misunderstood. And again, that's a whole long thing because I was in Detroit and I heard the stories. And, you know, it's like a lot of people don't remember when Dennis was clean cut, didn't have any tattoos. He was a worm, and then something happened there. And
What happened?
well,
Like,
that's
is that
one I can't repeat that.
yeah.
But I know, I was told, you know, some of the stories that happened and, you know, he kind of lost it. And
Was it while he was here?
No,
It wasn't.
it was in Detroit.
In Detroit when the
And
switch
then
went.
and then they traded him. And then when I was there in
For Sean.
Detroit, yeah.
Right.
And then when I heard some of the stories, I understood where Dennis was coming from. And so I really enjoyed playing with Dennis, actually. I really liked having him.
He did work, man. He went to
yeah,
work.
yeah.
out
He
there.
was. I think he was. Might have been right next to me in the locker room, maybe a couple seats down, but didn't say a lot. I would joke for a long time that he'd come in the locker room before the game and he'd have a towel on his head. At halftime, he'd have a towel on his head, and then you'd run out of the locker room and he's slapping you on the ass, going, "Come on, baby!" And I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Yeah.
Like somebody put batteries in him at halftime or before the game, and he's a completely different person when he's out there on the court and the lights are on. But I appreciated his work. I did. I appreciated it, and I really don't have a bad thing to say about Dennis.
Were there any just kind of crazy stories about him around town in San Antonio? I mean, you hear about him leaving the Bulls to go to Las Vegas. Was there any?
I don't know if he was doing that as much when I was here, because I was only here with him for a year.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear very many stories about him around town. But I know, once he got to Chicago, it was a little different. It was a little different for him. He was back in the big city, back in the limelight, and he didn't shy away from that at all.